Hello and welcome to the Posture Dojo Podcast. My name is Sam Miller. I'm here sharing stories from my own journey of healing an 85-degree kyphoscoliosis and stories from experts from different fields, from breath, movement, gymnastics, psychosomatic healing methods, bringing together what actually works, what we can implement into our own journeys of healing and physical and mental and spiritual transformation. Today, I'm excited to have Thomas Hague on the podcast, the Breathwork Coach at thebreathworkcoach.com. And let's dive...
The breath coach.
thebreathcoach.co.uk.
Yes.
To be specific.
.co.uk. Yeah.
Thebreathcoach.co.uk, coming at us from the United Kingdom. How did you become the breath coach?
It's a long-winded story. I'm not going to bore you with it totally, but it involved a lot of stress.
I've heard, long-winded breaths are what we're going for, though. So.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's like a long-winded exhale, but I'm not going to go there. I was like super stressed at work, living in the city, shoes on my feet, in the rat race, the corporate rat race, paying my mortgage, children arriving, and just like full of stress. And I realized that I needed a change, and I didn't know what that was. It was like I was working all day, feeling stressed, obviously, and then going into the gym, trying to burn that stress off, but then also frying my nervous system because, we're in a state of stress anyway. And then we go and exercise and we stress ourselves even more, higher the heart rate. Then we don't sleep very well. And it was going round and round. So anyway, I found my brother actually recommended on a walk using some on the camera there, like a 3M micropore tape, which you place across your lips for keeping your mouth closed at night. Because I had an obstruction in my nose from playing soccer a long time ago. And this little bit of tape, this little bit of magic here, after 2 days, I was like, oh, wow, my sleep's so much better. I feel so much better.
Now, are you
my
doing
stress is
the
lowered.
full mouth tape, which I did for the first little bit because I'm like, oh, you're going to cover the whole mouth. But in reality, I found that all you need is a little strip.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little strip down the center.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
much
yeah.
less painful to take off in the morning.
Depends how air greedy you are. Like some people have got, it depends on the blood gases and CO2 tolerance, etc. But when you first start out, I was kind of gasping for breath, so I did the whole wide one. But then now, yeah, like you say, take a little bit off and just place it.
Boom, there you go. And for me,
That's
I was doing it regularly for probably a couple months, and then I found like I was starting to change that habit. I was changing that breath groove in my body to start that more nasal breathing. I was waking up and I was I can clearly tell the difference from a night of sleep where I've been breathing through my mouth or my nose now.
100%. It's that easy. It's completely low-lying fruit.
Yeah.
You can, it's attainable for everyone. If you mouth breathe and you wake up with a dry mouth in the morning, then you've got to use some sort of tape. I mean, this is cheap and very easy. It's like $2 a roll.
So that was the gateway into breath.
That was a gateway into breath work. I'd like, wow, this has changed a lot. I'm nasal breathing during my sleep. I'm waking up more refreshed, less stressed, and just a happier, more present person. Then it was like, right, I need to buy the book. So I bought, at the time, it was Patrick McKeown's Oxygen Advantage, one called Shut Your Mouth by the same guy. Then Breath by James Nestor came out. And then I read those, hired a coach. That was working, like my CO2 tolerance was very low. We can talk about that in a bit. My CO2 tolerance was very, very low. So my performance and my energy was very low too. I was very fatigued and always wondering like, why am I so tired? Going to the doctor and saying, can you do my bloods again, please? Because I'm just exhausted. I could fall asleep anywhere, like, put me in a cold corner of a room on a hard floor. I'm like, and then that changed, the tape changed it. But when with the coaching and the CO2 tolerance advancement, I started to feel a lot better. So I decided it was time to learn to be a coach. I took my qualifications and packed my job in, my stressful job, and here we are, like 2 years down the line, seeing clients every day and changing lives.
That's a beautiful path. You brought up a couple big things I'd love to dive into. We're on the the CO2 tolerance conversation. I've been starting to dabble in free diving, and one of the first things you realize is it's not about holding your breath longer. It's becoming more tolerant to the CO2. Walk us through that.
Yes, if you're free diving, right, you're breathing up before you go for the dive. So that entails breathing very calmly and keeping very still. And then you'd be breathing in. The last breath before you go underwater is a big, long inhale, diaphragm into your chest. Last little bit, and down we go. Yeah. So we might be down under the water for, minute and a half before we start getting desperate, depending on your CO2 tolerance. But you've got a lung full of air. You've also got, your blood is full of oxygen. Yeah, so you're heavily loaded with oxygen. If you were to use like a pulse oximeter and turn it on, it would probably say from 95 to 99% SpO2. That's your oxygen saturated hemoglobin versus total hemoglobin, oxygen in the blood. So that would say normoxia, normal, 95 to 99%. So your body's laced with oxygen. But what's happening is when you go down, the oxygen is getting used and dropped off to the working cells and muscles. So like your arms and your legs kicking. Then it starts moving back and the waste gas CO2 comes into the lung. And that is the primary driver to breathe. That is what causes you to want to breathe. The chemoreceptors and the part of the brain, the respiratory center in the brain, is monitoring the CO2 levels in your blood. It's not monitoring oxygen. So it's the primary driver to breathe. When that builds up, if you're sensitive to CO2, the brain is going, breathe now. But that's impossible when we're underwater, right? Because that's dangerous. So we have to maintain that high levels of CO2 to be a really good free diver. Yeah. And what do you do when you come up?
Well, it's handy living what you're talking about. Yeah, it is. It is that awareness in the body that does help you in these practices as well, right? Understanding that, your body isn't, you're not going to have your peace in that environment allows you to be more comfortable for longer periods of time underwater.
Exactly.
Right. So if we become aware that, this is just a signal, I'm not out of air yet. I can go much longer. I'm just getting signals that I can tolerate more of. Right.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, because we now know, science tells us that we can train our respiratory center in the brain to be less sensitive to CO2, meaning that nagging feeling and that feeling of desperation to take a breath in, we can push way past that. So if you were to speak to a really great freediver, who that the best that you see on television, that amazing documentary,
110 meters now, it's ridiculous.
110 meters. Yeah, it's like they have an extremely high CO2 tolerance. So I would ask you, whoever's listening, watching, to look into taking your BOLT score, your body oxygen level test. And this is a direct indicator to measure your CO2 tolerance. If your CO2 tolerance is below 25 seconds, it's measured in seconds, then you have what is called, quite a strong word, dysfunctional breathing. If it's above that, we have functional breathing. So, but you're not going to get a free diver with a BOLT score of 25. Their CO2 tolerance is likely to be 60, 70, 80 plus. Yeah.
And now dysfunctional breathing, and also like if it's that low, it's probably, it could be a reaction to those signals as well, like that mental activity of just, wow, I can't do anymore. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
But
So it is a mental
unfortunately,
practice to kind of improve the function, the physical
yes, it's
function.
both physical function and a psychological function. But you have many athletes who are very good at this, can actually push past that fear response that is, I'm going to suffocate any second. But when you use a pulse oximeter, which is extremely useful, if you've used one before, Sam, but um, yeah, if you just buy one, £10 on Amazon, or any other popular shopping places, super useful at doing what you just did then, holding your breath on the inhale or the exhale, and feeling that sensation of carbon dioxide building up in your lungs and then obviously in your blood. The brain is monitoring the pH of the blood, the acidity and the alkalinity. And when you feel like you're desperate to take that breath in, just have a look at the pulse oximeter SpO2 reading, and it will tell you that it's probably not dropped far out of normoxia, 95 to 99%. Yeah.
So it's some
You can
checks and
go down.
balances. So you can say, okay, no, you can go. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a bit of
Yeah.
a confidence booster to see that happening and being like, okay, I'll keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, and just
Yeah.
that
So
belief
some people,
alone is going to allow you to keep going.
yeah, but some people will look at that and the SpO2 is like 93%. And I'm like, dude, you can go way harder than that, You can keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So you can train that. And that's the beauty of it. So when I was going back a little bit, when I was talking about inhaling, going underwater, free diving, what is the first thing we do when we come up? We breathe out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if
We
we
breathe
can
out.
breathe out on the way up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as we're coming up, we're breathing out. As
Right.
we get to the top, and then it might take us 2, 3, 4 seconds to actually take that first breath in. We're not desperate for oxygen. We're desperate to get rid of the CO2, which is causing the discomfort.
And we're in this bridge between the physical and the psychological. And I think I said psychosomatic in the intro. It's certainly my approach to postural transformation. The scoliosis curves that may form, the kyphosis. It often involves some type of relaxation of the nervous system. Some of these curves are caused by the contraction, the tensing of the nervous system, which its main cord through our bodies is our spinal cord. And if that's chronically contracted or tensed, especially through our growth spurt teenage years, we may start seeing this warping in the physical spine, the vertebrae, the spinal column. So obviously the path to align, the path to allow that alignment through elongation is relaxation of the nervous system. And this is something that hasn't really been explored. It's just something on my own kind of journey as I'm going about through my own healing and then now helping others. I'm realizing that this is one of I think the most underutilized kind of pathways of healing that we have, that no one's kind of really pulling together, that I'm attempting to do. And it takes speaking to a lot of experts such as yourself to be able to not only understand, but then to be able to communicate and verbalize this kind of connection and this bridge. And I think the breath is that bridge between our thoughts and understanding of, okay, techniques and methods, to start applying it to the nervous system, at the nervous system level. And that brings us to one of the first things that you said, which I think you pointed out because it's, I think, something that a lot of people do unconsciously when they're going to the gym to stay fit and healthy, is they're frying their nervous system. So walk us through that.
Sure. So if I was to relate it to a very successful CEO, I'm working with some executives at the moment, and 95% of them have a fried nervous system, because it's like their vision of success is to work super hard. So it's like up super early, work really late, blue light, not enough nature, not enough breath work. That's stressful jobs. They're always on the phone. They're always on tech. Busy meetings, go, 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 go. And then they also think it's really cool to hire or do high intensity, like HIIT exercise, high intensity sports like racquetball, and work super hard in the gym to look really great. But they're fried all day, yeah, and then they go into the gym and work for a few hours, and then they're frying the nervous system even more. Even though they're doing themselves a service by obviously getting fitter in the gym, yeah, cardiovascular health, etc. But they're frying the nervous system, and I can tell as soon as I meet them what kind of person they are just by looking at them, and how they're going to react to the exercises that I give them. So one of the first exercises is very kind of light, slow, and deep breathing. So it's like I can't see you breathe. I want you to like extend the exhale to be more parasympathetic. So people who don't know what that is, that's kind of like rest and digest feeling. Activating the vagus nerve, activating the phrenic nerve along the side of the spinal cord for the diaphragm movement, and just which is going to give you greater oxygen diffusion and a calmer nervous system. So they're in this stress. Imagine this is a seesaw. They're in stress state. Then they go and exercise, even more stressed. And then when we do some very light, slow, deep breathing, incorporating CO2 tolerance, then we want to kind of bring them back into balance. As soon as they go into balance after 2 minutes, they're like, a lot of them fall asleep. And that is a direct indicator that their nervous system's completely shot and they need to find balance. Yeah.
What is those work? Well, like let me phrase that question good. Like, how does a workout regimen? What's the difference between a workout regimen that is understanding and working with the nervous system instead of against it?
Yeah, it's quite simple. We just need to switch from that mouth breathing, slow things down, and nasal breathe. Really kind of work on the biomechanics, so the functions of like posture and the mechanics and the rib cage and the spine, etc., and the diaphragm contraction, and slow things down. Drop your ego, slow things right down, keep the mouth closed. I mean, it's one of those fads that you might see online where people are like taping the mouth in the gym. There's no need to do that. That's just like kind of form of cruelty in a way. You can't drink, you can't talk. And you'd be feeling a desperation to breathe through the nose. Very hard if you're not used to having your mouth closed. So it can have a more stressful effect on people. So just keeping your mouth closed. If you feel that you are unable to maintain nasal breathing, then slow down, regain your breathing, concentrate on the mechanics again and the diaphragm, and then go back into the exercise. Over time, like the programs that I write for people, we just build up very, very slowly to the point where, I did some FTPs this morning on some fitness testing on a bike, and I went to my lactate threshold for 20 minutes, all nasal, which keeps my heart rate down, even though it was extremely intense. But my Bolt score is up at 55 at the moment, so that's really high. So I'm doing lots of training. So yeah, there's lots of like caveats, but slow things down. Just like stop going, stop going so hard.
Yeah, I have heard, I think in, especially competitive environments, like when you are in that, that extra, that fifth gear, that sixth gear kind of thing, kicking into some mouth breathing, I did show like extra performance but only at that level,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, but only when we train in a certain way. We train nasally and we build our CO2 tolerance up, and how to keep our nervous system balanced. When we go into competition, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Forget
still,
that.
like you still want to stay in the nasal as long as possible, and then when it's really kicking in, go into
Yeah.
some
That's
extra
where the
mouth.
foundation goes. So the
Yeah.
foundation of breathing is like your health, your happiness, posture, sleep, diet, exercise. We look at all those things with athletes and general public. Then we can start building up into like the performance side of things. And to perform really, really well when we need to go, then it's a matter of training. All of the nasal breathing is part of the training. And we slow things down, we drop our egos. Yeah, we balance the nervous system. The VO2 max on lower zones can build up quite heavily. Slow. We build. CO2 tolerance builds. Then we can put ourselves into a more stressful situation by doing some really strong breath holds on the exhale, which affects our lactate threshold. So when we get to the point where we are really pushing, say on an endurance race, for instance, then we won't reach our lactate threshold as quickly because we've trained our lactate threshold with breath holding. Yeah, that's the crux of it. That's the idea.
There's a select group of people who are going to benefit from, these more intensive one-on-one personalized kind of trainings to implement these ideas. Most people, I think, are going to find value by just remembering something from this conversation. I would suggest that maybe that the difference between going to the gym and redlining yourself, just kind of over revving the engine, frying the nervous system as you're saying, is essentially doing the same thing, still functioning at that fast-paced, productive level throughout the day and going to the gym. But the one thing to remember is that throughout all of that, bringing an awareness to slow down the breathing, to slow down your exhales, and to really focus and prioritize on nasal breathing is going to be something that would transform your life through your nervous system.
Completely transform your life. I'm 46. I haven't cycled since October, and that was just some downhill mountain biking. So I'm not doing cycling. Today I did my testing on my lactate threshold on a bike, full on for 20 minutes. And I maintained, I didn't go over 160 on my heart rate. I felt really good. I probably had more in the tank. The next time I do it, I'll go a bit harder. But that just shows you that someone who's relatively fit, such as myself, who trains his breath every day, I concentrate, I'm super aware of how I'm breathing in any given situation, especially when I'm exercising, can perform to that level. And that is simply down to the breath work I do. I'm not an athlete. I haven't got great genetics like you, like super tall, stacked, fit.
I've had to work for everything too. I bet
everyone does.
I'd be tall, lanky, and broken if I just kind of let the environment kind of win, right?
Yeah.
The difference of a workout from just going in at that surface level and that the ego lifting, yeah, sure, it can be, if you're going for those those physical pumps, or I'm sure there's a time and place for everything. I think variability is a great skill to have in all of these types of workouts. But the difference between like a high intensity, just over revving, redlining workout, and one where you go in, you're dropping the ego, because when you're truly breathing in relation and in synchronization with the nervous system, when you're bringing your awareness to calm the nervous system throughout these movements, you might find that you're going to be lifting less, but the exercise will be much more beneficial for you. Is that something you found?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just drop it, like you say. It's a big thing to say. It's like, drop your ego, dude. It's like, we don't have to do what you're doing right now. Let's just trust me. And I guarantee that in 2 months, 4 months, 6 months time, a year down the line, you are going to be smashing your PBs because you have regulated your nervous system. You've built up your CO2 tolerance. You're sleeping way better. You're feeling way better. You're way happier. Yeah. And just making some changes and incorporating those with some really clear goals, then you will definitely perform better. And if you're looking to perform better in the office and then perform better on the track or in the gym or whatever you want to do, then it's very possible. But you have to slow things down.
Yeah. The thing that we're not looking to, well, at least I'm not looking to lift more weights. I'm looking to be at peace, at calm in higher and more stressful environments. Like my practice now is taking my calm into more stressful environments, whether it's the cold water, a hike, a certain type of calisthenic bodyweight movement. That's my kind of journey at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's about longevity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a happier, healthier life as we're beginning to get older and older.
Yep.
And I think that many people think that it's all about go, go, go and red line, when in fact, yes, that can be helpful because, like you say, we have to give our nervous system a boost. Not all stress is bad, right? It's just about finding, like anything, it's all about balance. If we can find that, and it's constantly working on it, I'm constantly working on it, but once we find that balance, we're in a much better place.
Longevity to me is a balance of function and flow. So with postural deficiencies, a lot of times, we've got this imbalance in our spine higher up. Sometimes it's the forward neck. Sometimes, we got our sideways bends. We got all types of imbalances going on that we've been living with through our habits, through just a lack of awareness sometimes. And our body is it creates its own natural bracing through tension in our body, and that's a common journey for a lot of people, is not being aware of these tensions, going to the gym, not having that awareness, and therefore kind of cementing in these compensations. And in the protocol that I'm creating, is the first step is unraveling a lot of those tensions, those compensations, before we start building those new neural muscular pathways through the breath, through the mind, through the nervous system. We're creating new connections from the mind to the muscle that we actually want to activate. And I've got a handy kind of story right now that I'd like to walk through and get your perspective on, because I think it's right in this space that we're talking about. So I spent years doing the bar squat, cementing in my I thought I was like building strength, but I was really just cementing in. I had a compensating strength, right? All my compensations were doing the lift, not the right ones. And so once you kind of remove those tensions and those compensations, you do have to go back. And that's where dropping the ego is such a piece of it. You got to go backwards sometimes to be like, okay, I'm going to lift less. I'm going to, I don't even recommend bar squats at this point for like people who are dealing with spinal stuff. Just drop that off the deck. There's plenty of other stuff to do to kind of get those same activations. So then we have benchmarks. Maybe it's side planks or deep squats. We have these kind of positions that we can kind of work through as kind of like levels to unlock. One of the levels that I've been unlocking over 10 years is the muscle up. For me, the pull-up has been, it's always been extremely difficult. An 85-degree curve in my spine has, made things a little more complicated. So to get the activation that I need to get through that entire kind of, transition of the muscle up, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. And I actually got there about a month ago, but then I had a little spill on the moto, scraped up my hand. So I lost the ability to practice it for a month. And now I haven't got the muscle up. I'm back to before I got it, because I just started getting it. I just started getting my first couple here and there, but like a proper scientific experiment, you got to be able to repeat it, right? So I didn't quite claim it. I'm just like, I'm starting to get it. So now I've, like, especially the last month or two, I've been diving into really, really integrating this awareness of the nervous system into this type of development. So yesterday, I'm going through a muscle up on a lower bar, so I can support myself with my legs. There's, for all of these type of benchmarks, there's ways you can progress there. And so, I was using a bar where I could just kind of, I wasn't hanging. I wasn't on a full hang. I could have my feet on the ground, and I could just go through the motions of a muscle up. Which, if you're not familiar with the muscle up, you're starting from a hang, and then with your chains that you have throughout your body, there's all types of different. It's a really coordinated movement where you're activating your entire body chain to get yourself up and above the bar. And instead of practicing from the hang, I practiced with my feet on the ground and just going through those motions at an extremely slow pace, connecting with my breath to activate each muscle as it did. And I was finding that I was, like I'm able to kind of put myself in a position where, whoa, okay, right at the beginning of this transition, I'm starting to see my kind of head tilt to one direction. I'm starting to, the compensated strength is starting to come in. So what do? I start exhaling. I go for that 8-10 second exhale, which I think is really the iron. We have this iron that we can do through the exhale, and it's kind of like an iron of relaxation, because that's when through the exhale you can let that compensation go, and it's in that moment that you're correcting the neuromuscular pathway, which you need to be able to do these things. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm curious, like what your perspective on that is, but it's definitely the value of doing this.
No, that's awesome. It's really good, and that you explained that really well. I can see you doing that. I would say that it's all down to the pressure that is created through breath work. Is something called intra-abdominal pressure, and that's built into the core. So when someone is super ripped, got a really, really lovely six-pack, look at me, I'm really strong. It's like, yeah, but how strong is your diaphragm? Yeah, are you a mouth breather? If you're a mouth breather, then you definitely don't have a strong diaphragm, because we don't activate the diaphragm. If I just move my camera slightly here, we've got this infrasternal angle here of the ribs running down, and then the diaphragm just sits like here, just kind of level. On the exhale, nice and relaxed. On the inhale, pushes down. Imagine like a jellyfish moving in the ocean, yeah? So inhale, it contracts, pulls down, high pressure around us, then pulls the air in. We don't have to force any air in, so it's like a very gentle breath. The diaphragm pushes down and creates pressure in the core. Yeah. So when you've got to do that muscle up, you've got to a point, and you will have taken a big, probably not a big breath, but you will have taken a breath in when you started. So it's in, and then you've held, and the diaphragm has contracted down, created the pressure in that area there, which has helped you pick up a bar, or it's helped you, in this case, lift up onto that point. As you've kind of like, you were saying that there were some muscles compensating for other ones, and you were slightly off, then yes, the breath can come in, because again, your CO2 tolerance, if you're holding your breath at that point, you're likely to start feeling some air hunger and some anxiety in the chest anyway. You're in that point there, you can reset, pressure again, and then as we push down on the muscle up, then our core is completely locked in position again. We've taken that big fresh breath in, we've got rid of the CO2 that was probably bugging us, and our brain was saying, hey, this is really hard. And then we have that nice long exhale, which again activates the vagus nerve, makes us feel a lot calmer rather than a yeah, we feel a lot calmer with a pursed lips, settle up, back in. Yeah. So without a strong diaphragm, without good intra-abdominal pressure, we don't have good movement.
Could you clarify if you were saying that, like, through those, through that, either the muscle up or through any other type of, exercise, are you exhaling, or are you keeping that intra-abdominal pressure?
Yeah, we keep it. So if we go into like a Romanian deadlift, then, or for anyone who doesn't do gym work, goes to pick up some heavy shopping bags. Yeah, really stacked bags. We generally breathe in, might breathe in through our mouth, whatever knows. Bend down, pick them up, hold our breath. As we hold our breath, we come back up, and then we start breathing again. That inhale and that pushing down of the diaphragm to create that intra-abdominal pressure in the core is key to spinal stability. We all do it without recognizing that we do it. So when I coach people, one of the biggest things that I say right at the beginning, right? How aware are you of your breath in any given moment? When you're stressed at work, when you go to open your emails in the morning at work and it's extremely busy, and do you hold your breath? Email apnea, holding your breath, email apnea. It's like a common thing at the moment in this stressful world of tech and emails, etc. How are you breathing then? How are you breathing when you're walking down the street? How are you breathing when you go shopping? How are you breathing when you're driving the car? And how are you breathing when you exercise? How are you breathing when you sleep? Yeah, so it's like, be aware. Once with awareness comes a choice, and you can switch which way you want to go. You want to be more energized, then we can do some hyperventilation. Want to feel calmer, longer exhales.
Yeah, because the breath truly is your accelerator throughout the
Yeah.
day and whatever activities you're in, and learning to use that is really, what an underrated skill to build, right?
It's free and it's there. All you need to learn are the skills and the tools. Once you have the tools, like I teach these 7-week courses to people. I work for like 2 or 3 months with athletes, and we start at the foundation level. Once you've left, then all right, it's initial outlay of money, that you're going to pay for a coach like myself. But once you've left, this is it for life. You are super, super aware of your breathing. You have the tools to switch your nervous system from one side to the other. You have the tools to disrupt the acid-base balance of your blood, your pH. You can sleep better. You can energize yourself better. You might have. I'm not saying it's a cure for many things, but if you mouth breathe and you have really bad breathing, then that is one of the reasons why you are going to be sick a lot of the time. Ill, viruses, colds, yawning, sighing, IBS, snoring, sleep apnea. The list goes on. All based on something that we do 23,000 times a day. If you're not doing it right, then you're going to feel sick.
They say the first day of monk school is breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They've got it down, right?
they do. They've got their priorities in order. I'm curious, how would someone who's not, practicing breath work do a muscle up, and how would they do it after?
Yeah, the right way would be. That's a tough question. It's a tough question.
Because you were
But
saying
I would say that
you've got the pressure, right? And you could do it either. You can do it either way, and this is the thing. It's about finding the way that works for your power, right? But because I think like the way that I was doing, I was exhaling, but as you exhale, you realize you lose that pressure inside. You lose that power inside.
The pressure goes.
But I found it helpful for like letting go of compensations, and that's part of letting go of the ego and letting go of the goal, and just being, okay, I don't need to get to the entire rep here. What I need to do is maintain relaxation through. So I might be practicing just that first little phase of that pull, right? I mean, I'm activating the erector muscles at the back of the spine first, and keeping the shoulders locking in and creating that pressured brace, and then I'm moving. But then I catch this tension. I could spend all day just practicing avoiding triggering that activation, and practicing that relaxation that that muscle shouldn't be activating. I know what I need to activate here. I want to keep aligned as I'm going through. So, I might just need to practice my exhales through here, and not try to keep that brace and that pressure all the way through with that compensation, because I want to let go of that compensation.
Yeah, well, I think if you stripped it back, instead of going maybe as intense as a muscle up, for instance,
Right? Yeah.
we go right back to basic. I'll say, right, where's your diaphragm? They'd be like, down here, or it's like, I have no idea. Most people, I have no idea where my diaphragm is. So you kind of like, a really great way of finding your diaphragm is to like inhale and exhale, and then just pinch the nose. As you pinch the nose and close your mouth, you've blocked all the airways, right? Then you try to breathe in with them locked. So out, hold, and then watch my hand. And there it is, contracting, pushing out, and try to pull down. And you can feel it going, dup, 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 dup. And you're like, right, there's my diaphragm. That's it. It's something, it's an autonomic muscle, like the heart and the diaphragm. You can't see them. You don't see them working. Yeah, you're exercising, it's doing its job. You're sleeping and you're conked out, you're asleep, in a deep sleep, and it's like, it's still doing its job and it's working all the time. If it's weak, or it's like stuck, or it's just not getting used as much, because we go and we're breathing up here in this chest area, and we're not getting the activation of the diaphragm,
which would be a
then just
lack of
simply close down the mind.
neuromuscular activity with that area as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all we're doing. We're training the brain, opening new pathways.
And how do you like to do that? Because that's a good one. Because I've seen kettlebells on the diaphragm, but how do you like to activate awareness and activation of the diaphragm?
Yeah. I think there was like that boxer recently, and Floyd, is it Floyd Mayweather, was like belting these balls on his stomach, and it absolutely ruined him. It was like, it was not a good way of doing it. I think that the way of, like, for someone to train that diaphragm would be to lay down in a supine position, feet on the floor, pelvic tilt, so the back is completely on the floor, and you can feel that. Your obliques just come in slightly, you can just feel that pressure in the obliques. And then place a heavy book, or, like, for athletes, I'll say like a sandbag, something a lot heavier. Place it on this angle here, lay it across about there, and then close the eyes and really concentrate on lifting the book or the sandbag. Just very gently. And just keep doing that, and do that for like 5 minutes before you go to do any form of exercise. And then when you're doing the exercise, really tune into how you're breathing, where you're breathing from. That is a key. If you go straight into an exercise and you're like, and you're panting, it's all up here, then your heart rate's elevated, your nervous system is becoming sympathetic, fight or flight. Yeah, adrenaline's up, stress is up. Then you're not going to perform at your best. Yeah, but I'm getting well ahead of myself. To answer the question, how would you go about doing a certain exercise? Let's just start with a press up, right? Even if it's just knees on the floor, then just do it, and see what you're doing. When you go down, you're probably exhaling. As you go up, you've probably breathed in really quickly, and then you pressurize into the top. The diaphragm is locking your core in place to enable you to hold the press up, knees are on your feet. But it's all about the diaphragm. I keep saying, you haven't got functional movement, you haven't got good breathing unless you're activating that properly.
Which could be a good part of a warm-up too, just making sure you've got that brain diaphragm connection going on before you go into lift.
Look at the NFL this weekend, right? Super Bowl. If you watch the players before the game, were they doing any sort of respiratory work? Yes, they were probably doing some sprints and some on the spot, revving themselves up, etc., etc. But did you see them doing any breath holds? Yeah. If you take an inhale and then an exhale, hold your breath, and then just walk on the spot, you will feel after, depending on your CO2 tolerance, right? But you will feel after a certain amount of time your diaphragm doing, try to pull down. And that's the joy of doing strong breath holds. We're strengthening the diaphragm, and it's contracting, it's pushing out, it's pushing this way, pushing down, and it's pushing into our backs. And doing that kind of work and increasing our acid-base balances with the pH, etc., of the blood, and the CO2 tolerance, then those NFL players would be super, super ready when they have to do a sprint, because their respiratory center, their organs, their muscles, the diaphragm have all been in a little workout. They're not being in a workout if they're like doing some sprints with their mouth open. They could wear a sports mask just for 5 minutes in the changing rooms or on the pitch. That kind of reduces the airflow in, so it's really kind of working the diaphragm. And then they're ready to go. Why do sports people find that their first 5-10 minutes they're fatigued, they feel a little bit sick. It's because they haven't warmed up their respiratory.
Yeah, like before you get to your second wind, right? I have
second
noticed
wind.
that. Yeah, second wind, literally.
Yeah, warm up your
Well, you
your
just get your
diaphragm and
first.
your
It
lungs.
should be your first. So your second
Your
wind
first
should be your
wind.
first wind.
Yeah.
Great.
You know what? And it's super simple stuff, and it works. And it's just like, I'm excited for the future of breathwork, because breathwork, breathing for performance, is going to be huge. If you're not doing it, then you're missing out.
And so you're like, let us know, how are you working with people? It sounds like you're helping people who really want to go to the high performance level by learning this. How are you helping people at the moment?
Yeah, sure. Various different athletes. It's kind of like looking at that foundation. Then we move into look at performance, so more of like stronger breath holds, etc. But the foundation we've talked about, the sleep and habits and food and exercise and goal setting and environments and nervous system balance. Performance, lactate threshold. We'll go into some altitude training, hypoxic, hypercapnic training, which is high levels of CO2, low levels of oxygen. So when they train this way and just implement small fragments of this kind of training into their schedules, because like, you speak to an endurance athlete, like I'm coaching at the moment, and their training schedule is stacked. If I come to someone and say, right, you need to do an hour's of breath work in the morning, they're just not going to do that. So it's about implementing it into their lower zonal runs, and there's some stronger breath holds just thrown in. It doesn't take much time. And then we look at flow states and how to get into that, cadence of running, footsteps relating to their running cadence in relation to their breathing, inhale and exhales, gear systems like nose to nose to mouth, and then mouth to mouth. Yeah, you notice that when I go to an inhale there as well, I'm pursing my lips. That activates the diaphragm. If I just breathe with my mouth wide open, chest movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I start down here first, rather than all up here. Yeah. And then we look at from that we look at recovery. And recovery for any athlete's like hugely beneficial, because if they're training like they do, then they have to train. If they've got a job and they're training at night, then we need to lower our heart rate. We need to go into recovery mode from that stressed fight or flight state into rest and digest before we go to sleep. Then we get a really great sleep, wearing tape if we wake up with a dry mouth. And then we can go the next day because we're fully recovered. We look at HRV, heart rate variation, really good barometer of like health and fitness. And if your nervous system's fried, then you're going to have a low heart rate variation. So that's like the kind of like crux of it: foundation, performance, flow, and recovery. Yeah.
Online or in person?
Depending where you're, I'm in North Devon, UK, but I've got athletes all around the world. Train someone in America at the moment, Australia, and lots in the UK, but in various places around the UK. So one-to-ones online are perfectly good, as long as I can see you. If you've got any equipment at home, like stationary bike, etc., rower, then we can do lots of work on those as well. Yeah. So that's the joy of COVID, wasn't it? It opened things up to stuff like we're doing now and having conversations at the other side of the world.
Yep. And so you can find all of those kind of how to contact you at thebreathcoach.co.uk. Sorry about plugging
That's
the
right.
other website. I've given some other breathwork coach
Yeah.
a little boost there. But you'll find in the show notes the correct link to get in touch with Thomas, whether you're an athlete or an executive, or you're just all about high performance, practicing a skill. That's extremely useful, that you'll see benefits in every part of your life. That's a good person to get in touch with. I can tell you've clearly dove in very deeply into this stuff. So I think you're a valuable guy to have on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving like collaborations around the world. I'm meeting with people. A guy in Morocco just yesterday. You today. Do you know what can we do and work together? It's just really nice to get our heads together and work things out together.
Nice one. All right. Well, thank
And
you.
I also, one other thing, I offer
Yep.
free consultations absolutely no obligation. It's just like I can do some testing on you and tell you what's wrong and what I suggest doing. If you want to work with me, you can. If you don't, that's cool. But I love just helping people and just giving them a bit of direction.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you know, you're really about helping people remember things to integrate into their lifestyle. Because getting someone to do extra
there we go.
stuff
I'm going to use that.
Isn't the way always. Right. So
No.
remembering, literally remembering things, and I think, you know, remembering our connection to the nervous system is extremely important, and you'll see a lot of fruits by doing so. So Thomas, thank you for the long-winded discussion. I think it was very helpful. And
I could go on forever, Sam. I love it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, we've got a high CO2 tolerance, so we could potentially talk for longer periods of time. Yeah. All right. So appreciate that, Thomas. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you, Sam.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.